Welcome to Westwood's 2020 Memorial Day observance. To paraphrase Thomas Paine, these are the times that try our souls. Many of us, the fortunate ones, these times are hard, but they're not life-altering. Nobody ever died or lost their job because of a bad haircut like mine. And then there are those for whom these times have been catastrophic in so many ways. With this in mind, and faced with the prospect of canceling Westwood's strong Memorial Day tradition, we opted to not let this day pass unmarked. Veterans Day in November is meant to honor veterans. I, like most of my fellow veterans, don't need to be honored. Our military service is amongst the highlights of our careers. But our citizens honor veterans anyway, and it's greatly appreciated. But today, Memorial Day, is for the men and women who, in service to their country, gave what Lincoln called at Gettysburg the last great full measure of devotion. They died defending the liberty, safety, and security that we all enjoy too often without thinking much about it. They did not get the opportunity to tell us it's not necessary to honor them, but I know in my heart that to a person they would tell us that if they could. So we come together on Memorial Day to honor their memory for their families, for our country, and for each of us, you and me, so that we never forget. Now, I'd be remiss if I did not take just a moment to thank and honor the men and women of the police, fire, emergency medical services, nurses, doctors, food industry workers, and more, who are putting themselves in harm's way today for us. Some are sick, some have died. I'm guessing they too would say they don't need to be honored. And while they may not be in the military, there's no doubt that many are at war against perhaps the most formidable adversary we have faced. Thank you. Now I'd like Reverend Dr. Stephanie Salinas of First Baptist Church to lead us in prayer, followed by Grace Walsh, a first grader at Hanlon from Daisy Troop 70663, to lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hi everyone, I'm Reverend Dr. Stephanie Salinas. I'm the pastor of First Baptist Church of Westwood on High Street, and I've been asked to give an invocation for today's Memorial Day service. We're doing this online, so I offer you just a moment of reflection. In these times when most of us are staying home more than usual, it's a good time to rewatch old movies. And one that I've been thinking about lately is the 1990 movie Dances with Wolves. In that movie, which is now 30 years old, Lieutenant Dunbar and Timmins are traveling through the 19th century North American Western Plains. Dunbar is a sensitive soul, and Timmins is a sarcastic and hardened assistant. They come upon the remains of a skeleton lying in the grass. Dunbar kneels beside the skeleton and becomes quiet and pensive. He's afraid. He's wondering at the reality around him. He's worried, he's scared, he's sad. Timmins comes up behind him and laughs and says, "Somebody back east is saying, why don't he write?" This Memorial Day, most of us probably have some of Dunbar and some of Timmins within us. Like Dunbar, we're pensive, we're isolated, we're sad, we're scared, we wonder, we're afraid. Like Timmins, we can be overwhelmed by all this reality and the grief around us, and we just want to laugh it off. We just want to push it away. Wherever you find yourself this day, I pray that you find hope. I pray that you find the softness and the love and the caring of Dunbar. I pray that you find the strength and the flexibility and the ability to rebound of Timmins. I pray that you find the blessing of the divine in your presence, and that holy presence feed and sustain you. May God help you smile. May God help you weep. May God grant you peace in your souls. May God grant you understanding in your homes. May God grant you the ability to know and the ability to be comfortable with what you don't know. Grace, peace, and joy be with you this Memorial Day. Amen and amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's red light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched, oh, so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
So we're honored to have Harry Aaron as our virtual Grand Marshal for the 2020 Memorial Day observance. If you know Harry, you know there's nothing virtual about him. Harry was born in 1936 and moved to Islington in 1947 to a house on the corner of Dean and Washington Streets. Harry graduated from Westwood High School in 1954. He loved everything about sports. At Westwood High, he played football, tennis, and softball. Later in life, he coached baseball, softball, soccer, and football. Later, still in life, he was the president of Pop Warner Football. He's president of Westwood Senior Softball League, where he played for High Street Market's team for 15 years. And he was the president and founder of the Westwood High School Sports Hall of Fame. Harry joined the United States Marine Corps in 1957 and was honorably discharged as a sergeant. During his time in the Marines, he was part of a team that decades later became Spec Ops, or Special Operations. That meant that, among other things, he was a paratrooper, once getting snagged high in a treetops, hanging from the limbs far above the ground. But he was also part of a team that developed how Special Forces disembarked from submarines at periscope depth in the dark of the night, never to be seen by the boat's crew again. I was a diver in submarines for most of the 1980s. Those kind of operations terrified me, and we had all the modern equipment. Harry helped figure out exactly how to do that safely. Shortly after his discharge, Harry went to work for the U.S. Postal Service and eventually became the postmaster in Norwood and Westwood. I don't know exactly how many years Harry served at the Postal Service, but our town clerk, Dottie Powers' husband, Mike, presented Harry with his 50 years of service, and he still worked for many years after that. Pat Ahern, a former selectman and now town council, told me, "Nobody ever cared more about our town than Harry Aaron." I'd never heard it put quite that way, but I know in my heart it's true. But here's the thing about Harry. Harry was a doer. He simply got things done, and he's done a lot. People would call Harry all the time asking for help or help solve a problem. He never said no, and he always delivered. He also did countless things that nobody ever knew that he did, and things that nobody asked him to do. Harry's support for citizens and friends is so embedded in our town that upon his retirement from the Postal Service, the Select Board tried to determine how they might give him an office in Town Hall so that he could continue to hold office hours. Harry and his wife of 57 years, Pat, still live in their beloved Islington, where they raised their 3 children, Brian, Tom, and Cheryl. I had a chance to talk with Harry recently, and here's a bit of our conversation. Harry, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine,
Great. It's good to see you, my old friend.
except for this thing here in the nose. I'm all right.
Yeah, I'll bet. I'm sure that gets annoying. Hey, I was so happy when Dottie told me that you agreed to be our Grand Marshal here for the.
Yeah, because I'm not crazy about this, but I'm doing it.
That's you've turned it down many times, given your humility and all that. So I'm really excited that you're willing to do it. Harry, I learned in the process of learning a little bit more about you than I already knew that you were 11 years old when you moved to Islington in 1947. I'm curious what brought the Aaron family to Islington.
Yes, it's rather easy to answer. My father died a month before I was born. We were living in Medford. 9 or 10 years later, my mother remarried to a fellow that lived here in Westwood and was born here in Westwood, and that's what brought us to this territory.
Aha. From what I can tell, you never looked back. I'm curious if there's something that stands out that you remember from Westwood back then that doesn't exist today.
Doesn't exist today. I can think of a number of things. I don't know about standing out. One of the things is the only factory that there ever was in Westwood was a myopia beverage company down the bottom of Grafton Ave. That no longer exists.
That's funny. I did not know they were here in Westwood. I know the company, but I didn't know they were here. I also understand you were quite an athlete at Westwood High. I think you played 3 sports.
Yeah, baseball 1 year. And I have to tell you the story. There was a man who was a teacher at the school, high school, and he kept telling me or asking me, Harry, will you come and play tennis? And I had no interest in tennis, really. And he says, of course, this fellow was also my physics teacher and algebra teacher. and he said, it would behoove you to play tennis because there's too many second basemen as there is anyhow, all right? So I switched from baseball after the first year to tennis, and I played 3 years of tennis and football for the whole 4 years. All I could take.
That's funny.
True story, but it did work.
That's awesome. So we're going to talk a little bit, but I was intrigued with you having joined the Marine Corps and you being assigned to this particularly sort of elite group that now these days is lots of different types of them, but back then there weren't.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if that was your choice or you just happened to get assigned to this group.
Initially, I can remember the truck dropping off different guys. Oh, you're in artillery, you're in this here. And I'm the last guy on the truck. I said, where the hell am I going here, you know? So anyhow, they stopped in front of this, I guess, insignia or what have you. And it was a big rubber boat with a parachute and something else. And they said, Aaron, jump off here. That was my introduction to amphibious recon.
Wow.
Which later became force recon.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a friend of yours, Al Wizialko, told me that I needed to ask about the paratrooper and getting stuck in a tree.
Well, there's some truth to that. It was my it was my first jump after Fort Benning, Georgia, where you made your initial 5 jumps. It happened to be a night jump, and the parachutes then, as compared to today, you couldn't steer them worth a damn. And being a night jump, just landed in a tree, but I didn't hurt myself or anything. That's all I got. No big deal.
Who cut you down?
No, I climbed down.
Oh, okay.
You pop the reserve chute and climb down that way.
Yeah. On a serious note, I'm intrigued. As I think you know, I was a submariner for most of the 80s. Yeah. And I used to do some of the going out the escape hatch, and those always terrified me. They were dangerous. My understanding is part of that amphibious group, you sort of developed with a group of people exactly how to do that kind of thing, going out of a submarine in the dark of night, never to be seen by the boat crew again. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, initially, to even get on a submarine, which we always functioned off of the Sea Lion, that's the only submarine. Initially, to even participate and get on, you had to go through down at New London, Connecticut, 100-foot tower, water tower,
sure,
which is not there anymore.
Yep.
But you had to enter at the bottom of the 100-foot tank and find your way to the surface with nothing more than a small life jacket. It was a system called blow and go.
Right.
You had to blow out bubbles as you started to raise up. And if you didn't, your lungs would burst.
Right.
You were picking up, you started off with air that was condensed, and now you had to relieve it on the way up.
Right. Right.
That wasn't a fun thing to do.
I'll bet. Particularly when you were doing it, they were sort of learning about it and figuring it out as opposed to.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Where did that leave us? So the whole business, when we did eventually work off the Sea Lion sub, sub was only down, to my knowledge, 35 feet or something. It wasn't big time, but you had to get in a hatch in the sub with two other guys. Somebody controlled the air pressure. All of a sudden, a small door opened up, or a window or what have you, because of the pressure release, and it let you out that way. Then you had to get out, go up a few stairs, take a right-hand turn just to get to the deck of the sub.
Right.
And that wasn't that bad. The part that I did not like was going back in at another time in the dark. And all you saw was phosphorus in the water. You know?
Right.
So
Well, you know, it's these, when I was in, they still had that escape trunk. There was a lower hatch. You all crawled in, shut the hatch, turn that thing. It's completely different today. I was watching a video just the other day. I'll send it to you. It's remarkably different how they do it today.
I can imagine.
But I was in, 30 years ago. So Harry, you've been integral in making the Memorial Day observance what it's been, which is part of the reason why I'm so excited that you were willing to do this year. And you've done so many things, there's too many to mention, some big and small, but some of the big ones, the three that stick with me were the Air National Guard flyover, the Admiral Hudner being the Grand Marshal, and Enoch Odell Woodhouse, one of the last remaining. In fact, he just passed away a few years ago, I think. But
No, he didn't. No, he's still alive.
He's still alive? Oh, I thought I'd read that. Anyway, he's one of the Tuskegee Airmen, who has quite a, for things like that in our sort of small, humble town of Westwood was really remarkable. And I'm just curious, how did you pull stuff like that together?
I'd say the first one would be Hudner. Somebody from the Postal Service contacted me one day saying, gee, we're going to dedicate a post office down in Rhode Island to a Medal of Honor recipient from Rhode Island. We'd love to have somebody that is a Medal of Honor recipient present if possible. Could you arrange something like this? I had never even met Hudner, but I was working, when I say working, with Veterans Affairs for a fellow out in Western Mass. And he's a wealthy man and had an 8-passenger jet. So I said, I asked Hudner over the phone, never met him. And he said, gee, I can't, there's too much I got to do on that day. I said, well, if I was able to get a plane out of Hanscom, could you make it then? And he said, I think I could do it then. So I called my friend up. I said, is there any way I could use the jet for the day, whatever? We got to get out of Rhode Island, whatever. I said, I'll take care of the gas. He says, you couldn't afford the gas, but you could use the plane.
Yeah.
Just take care of the pilot. Make sure.
I never knew that. I never knew that. That's how that happened. Admiral Hudner was a tremendous guy. Well, Harry, because of this COVID-19 situation, you don't get the round of applause that you deserve as our Grand Marshal this year. But like I said, there'll be a lot of people watching, and I want to personally thank you for being willing to be the Grand Marshal this year. But more importantly, in all sincerity, and I know as well, if not better than anybody knows, how much you did and have done to make this particular Memorial Day, this particular event in Westwood, the Memorial Day observance, really a special annual thing that people come to enjoy. So thank you very much. So now it's my great pleasure to introduce our representative for the 8th District and my good friend, Congressman Stephen Lynch.
It has been said that there is loyalty in the simple act of remembrance. While I am proud to once again join with you on Memorial Day in this moment of solemn and reverent dignity, this year has offered us up a very different Memorial Day, and it would be wrong for us to pretend otherwise. Many good and decent men and women who proudly served our nation have succumbed to the virus during this pandemic. In hospitals, in nursing homes, and in soldiers' homes all across this country, under conditions that did not meet with the expectations or the long-standing traditions of the American people. And certainly the manner of their parting in the midst of this crisis did not reflect the honored place or the treasured status that they hold in our hearts. The best course, the only course that is left to us now on this Memorial Day, is to not only honor their memories, but also to repair the vulnerabilities in our readiness that allowed such a breach to occur, by making it a certainty that we shall never again be caught unprepared, and by trying to live up to their highest expectations for ourselves and for our nation. Lastly, it is important to remember that our veterans knew they were openly and widely cherished and respected within our community. And best of all, they knew they were deeply loved by their families and their friends. I look forward to a day when we will be able to gather together and remember as one. May God bless you and your family, and may God bless the United States of America.
We'd now like to hear from our chairman of our select board, John Hickey.
Good morning, neighbors and friends. On behalf of the Westwood Select Board, I want to welcome you to Westwood's 2020 Memorial Day observance. Although our venue and medium for this year's observance is different, Westwood's commitment to remembering those who sacrificed their lives remains steadfast. I want to thank my colleagues, Nancy Hyde and Michael Walsh, our town administrator, Christopher Coleman, our town clerk, Dottie Powers, and the entire Westwood team that worked diligently to ensure that our observances occurred this year. Our police, fire, DPW departments, and our entire Memorial Day committee have worked diligently and gone above and beyond to ensure that Westwood observes this day with the class and dignity it deserves. Our Grand Marshal this year is Harry Aaron, a Marine Corps veteran who has given countless hours of service to our town through his work on our annual Memorial Day observance. We thank Mr. Aaron for his selfless acts in serving his country and our community. Additionally, each year, Westwood's Gold Star mother, Mrs. Christine Devlin, has a seat of honor at our Memorial Day observance. We wanted to ensure that this year was no different. Mrs. Devlin lost her son, Lance Corporal Michael Devlin, a Westwood High School graduate, on October 23, 1983, while he was stationed in the Middle East with the Marine Corps. Today we remember Michael and all the brave souls who have died in the defense of our freedom. This September, we will commemorate the 75th anniversary of the end of World War II. On that occasion, General MacArthur said, "A new era is upon us. Even the lesson of victory itself brings with it profound concern, both for our future security and the survival of civilization. The destructiveness of war potential through progressive advances in scientific discovery has now, in fact, reached a point which revises the traditional concept of war. Today, our world faces new and deadly challenges, and we rely on the example of those who have gone before us to persevere and to remember those who sacrificed in the name of freedom. I again thank you for joining us, and at this time, I would ask our State Representative Paul McMurtry to offer a few words.
Hello. On this Memorial Day, we gather in a very different manner with a renewed sense of purpose as our nation and our world face a fight, a biological war, the COVID-19 pandemic, one that has taken countless lives and paused the global economy. Today, we are thankful for all those on the front line of our healthcare, public safety, and food supply. In the same manner, we remember the courageous men and women who gave their lives in service to our nation. We share in a mutual gratitude and admiration to those whose ultimate sacrifice allow all of us as Americans our immeasurable freedom. I'm honored to be here in the company of Senator Michael Rush, Select Board members Hickey, Hyde, and Walsh, Town Administrator Chris Coleman, Veterans Agent Chris McEwen, Chief Silver, Chief Deckers, along with the talent of Dan Clark, our trumpeter and bagpiper, and of course, Westwood Community Access Television, as you safely watch at home and we assemble to pay tribute to those who we deservingly honor each Memorial Day. Today, more than ever, we stand united, we stand humbled, and we stand proud. Here is a grateful community in Westwood and across the country, grateful to all those who throughout our storied history stood to defend and preserve our values, democracy, and our freedom. We are reminded that generations have been given the opportunity to live a better life because all of those who fell in service to our nation. We grow, we prosper, we achieve, succeed, love, laugh, and live as others have perished while wearing the uniform of our country. We take time to reflect on the sacrifice so many, hopeful that their actions were not in vain. We are inspired by the sacrifice of our servicemen and women, and by honoring them today, we show our eternal obligation. We stand among the symbols of their memory here at the New Westwood Cemetery to remember what has been lost as a nation and gained as individual citizens. We reflect, even for a moment, that there are those who have never returned because of their courage, selflessness, sacrifice, and service. We are a better community, commonwealth, and country. Their service is the core of America's resiliency. For all who have served and continue to serve, you have our heartfelt gratitude today and every day. Thank you, and stay safe. At this time, it gives me great honor to introduce my colleague at the State House, your State Senator, Michael Rush.
Good morning. Thank you for the kind introduction. It is an honor and a privilege for me to represent the citizens of Westwood at the Massachusetts Legislature, along with your outstanding State Representative Paul McMurtry. A very special thanks to your outstanding local leaders, Selectman Walsh, Hyde, and Hickey, the outstanding job they do each and every day to make this the great town that it is. A very special thanks to Chris McEwen for the work done for our veterans and ensuring that they are given the dignity and respect that they deserve. It is a highest honor as a United States Navy officer and veteran to stand here and offer remarks on the extreme importance of Memorial Day, in which we remember those who have given their lives for this country. We acknowledge that there are soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and Coast Guardsmen standing watch around the world at this very moment who are ready to do the exact same as the brave women and men who we remember today. It was Pericles who called on the sons of Athens not to let their war dead die in vain. He said, "This empire has been acquired by men who knew their duty and had the courage to do it. Make them your examples." Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. once said in a Memorial Day address, "Not long ago, I heard a young man ask why people still kept up Memorial Day. He answered the question by saying this: Memorial Day celebrates and solemnly reaffirms from year to year a national act of enthusiasm and faith. It embodies in this most impressive form our belief that to act with enthusiasm and faith is a condition of acting greatly. Our nation has made the important and crucial decision to establish this day so that we remember those who died in service to our nation. This community and communities across the Commonwealth have chosen to do the very same by honoring these brave women and men's memories through this service here today and with memorials, street corners, and monuments that bear the names of those who acted selflessly in the name of democratic principles, way of life, and love of country. President Wilson said of the American flag, "The lines of red are lines of blood, nobly and unselfishly shed by men who loved the liberty of their fellow men more than they loved their own lives and fortunes." Let us work together to ensure during these uncertain and challenging times that the war dead have never died in vain by ensuring that each and every day is in fact a Memorial Day. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
So, ladies and gentlemen, as a United States Marine, obviously I take the greatest pride in my service, but I have the greatest respect for all those men and women who have served. Now, you know my hymn, From the Halls of Montezuma to the Shores of Tripoli. If you serve in the United States Army, you may know your hymn to be Caissons Go Rolling Along. They changed the word just a little bit, now called Army First to Fight. United States Navy, the incomparable Anchors Away. If you serve in the United States Air Force or Army Air Corps a long time ago, Wild Blue Yonder. Now, in addition to this group of men and women who not only guard our shores, but they're deployed to combat venues all over the world. Their hymn, Semper Paratus. I'm talking about the United States Coast Guard. And then finally, there's a group that was long forgotten, until an act of Congress in 1988 ordered that they will also be recognized as veterans. I'm talking about the Merchant Marines, because they were pressed into service to take our boys overseas. Supplies, boots, bullets, bandages. Many times they were sunk by enemy submarines right off the coast of the United States of America. They have their own hymn also. It's called Heave Ho, My Lads, Heave Ho. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would respectfully request when I sing your hymn, if you have served, if you've had a family member who's served, been married to a serviceman or servicewoman, do me a favor. When I sing your hymn, let me see that paw in the air or give me a good salute. You guys ready? Here we go. Do I have any Merchant Marines? Heave ho, my lads, heave ho. It's a long, long way to go. It's a long, long pull with the hatches full, braving the wind, braving the sea, fighting a treacherous foe. Heave ho, my lads, heave ho. Though the seas blow high and low, we can cross any ocean, sail any river. Give us those goods and we'll deliver. Damn the submarines! We're the men of the Merchant Marines. Where's my Coast Guard? Outstanding. We're always ready for the call. How we place our trust in thee. Through surf and storm and howling gale, I shall our purpose be. Semper Paratus is our guide, our fame and glory too. To fight, to save and fight, to die, I Coast Guard, we are for you. Where's my army? Army, outstanding. First to fight for the right and to build a nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fight until the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. For it's hi, hi, hey, the army's on its way. Call up your cadence loud and strong. Hoo-hee! For wherever we go, you will always know that the army goes rolling along. Navy! Anchors away, my boys, anchors away. Farewell to college joys, we sail at break of day. Through our last night on shore, drink to the full until we meet once more. Here's wish you a happy voyage home. Where's my Air Force? Outstanding. Off we go into the wild blue yonder, flying high into the sun. Oh, down we dive, spout our flames from under. Hats and board, give the gun. Off we go, assuming to meet our thunder. Up in one hell of a roar. We live in fame, or down in flame. Let's get up the U.S. Air Force. All right, Marines, get on your feet. From the halls of Montezuma up to the shores of Tripoli, we will fight our country's battles in the air, on land and the sea. Of us to fight for right and freedom and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marine. From our merchant marines to our Coast Guardsmen, our Army, Navy, Air Force, United States Marine Corps, and our newest Space Force, we wish you Godspeed and stay safe.
So this concludes Westwood's 2020 Memorial Day observance. I'd like to again thank our town's select board, our police, fire, and public works departments, Representative McMurtry, Senator Rush, the Westwood Media Center, and most importantly, I'd like to thank the citizens of Westwood for their continued commitment to observing Memorial Day properly. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you.